When we picture ancient Egypt, one face comes to mind before any other. The gold funerary mask of Tutankhamun is one of the most instantly recognizable artifacts in human history. After Howard Carter unsealed his tomb in 1922, archaeologists pulled over 5,000 intact treasures from the burial chamber. The sheer volume of wealth triggered a global obsession with the boy king that still fills museum exhibitions today. Curious, but this modern worship contradicts a bizarre historical reality. In the years immediately following his death, his own contemporaries executed a calculated campaign to wipe him entirely from the historical record. The very political actions designed to erase the boy pharaoh from memory are exactly what transformed him into the most immortal figure in the ancient world. The evidence of this cover-up starts with the tomb itself. Looking at the modest interior of KV62, the room is exceptionally small. The simple yellow walls and cramped design completely violate the standard scale expected for a pharaoh's burial. The burial procedures were severely rushed. Egyptian tradition dictated a strict 70-day deadline for mummification and internment. The wall paintings, specifically the scene depicting the opening of the mouth ceremony, show clear signs of a hasty, frantic application meant to beat that clock. Following this hurried funeral, his successors sent workers through the temples to chisel Tutankhamun's name off of stone monuments and steal his royal statues for themselves. This deliberate, state-sponsored cover-up forces us to look back at the chaotic empire he inherited to understand why the ruling class needed him gone. In 1332 BC, Egypt was recovering from the Amarna period. Tutankhamun's father, Akhenaten, had abruptly outlawed the traditional pantheon of ancient gods, forcing the entire empire to worship a single sun disk known as the Aten. Taking the throne at 8 or 9 years old, the young pharaoh legally reversed his father's deeply unpopular policies. He abandoned the new capital, and the royal couple updated their cartouches, the oval seals displaying their restored royal names, to honor Amun, the traditional king of the gods. To legitimize this massive religious transition, he became one of the rare pharaohs worshipped as a living, breathing god during his own lifetime. Temples in Nubia featured stone statues of the god Amun, carved with Tutankhamun's specific facial characteristics. Through these acts, he spearheaded one of the most successful cultural restoration periods in Egyptian history. Modern pop culture often portrays Tutankhamun as a frail, club-footed invalid whose genetics left him entirely dependent on walking canes. The forensic data tells a different story. The wear patterns on the soles of his buried sandals are perfectly symmetrical. If he relied on a cane or favored one leg for support, friction would have worn down one shoe significantly more than the other. His burial chamber contained over 400 arrows, functioning leather armor, and combat imagery, like this ceremonial shield showing him actively slaying a lion. This extensive weaponry aligns perfectly with the standard boy-soldier military practices of the Egyptian army at the time. He was an active, capable ruler, overseeing international conflicts, and his life was cut abruptly short right at the height of his restoration campaign. At 18 years old, he died. Current scientific consensus points to a fatal combination. He suffered a sudden, unhealed leg fracture, which left his body vulnerable to a severe strain of a malaria-causing parasite attacking his system. Because his 2 children were stillborn, his sudden death completely severed the 18th dynasty royal bloodline. The empire was instantly plunged into a dangerous power vacuum. This timeline shows what happened next. Without a clear heir, his vizier Ai, and later the military general Horemheb, seized the throne. Once in power, they initiated a ruthless damnatio memoria, a systematic campaign to destroy the physical memory of Tutankhamun and his family line. The generals needed to legitimize their own rule. By destroying the monuments of the boy king, they could entirely wash away the lingering political taint of the Amarna period and frame themselves as the true saviors of Egypt. Over a century later, laborers digging a massive tomb for a subsequent pharaoh dumped their excavated earth directly over Tutankhamun's burial site. His tiny, rushed tomb was completely buried under mounds of debris in the Valley of the Kings. Ancient workers then unknowingly constructed their housing huts directly on top of this newly elevated ground, sealing the original entrance entirely out of view. The grand, highly visible tombs of Egypt's most famous pharaohs became massive targets. Over the centuries, every single one of them was systematically raided and emptied by ancient looters. By refusing to give Tutankhamun a grand monument, his political rivals accidentally built the perfect camouflage. The debris piled up by the successors trying to forget him is the only reason his gold sat completely undisturbed for 3,000 years. Because his body remained untouched, modern medical technology has extracted more historical data from his remains than any other pharaoh in Egyptian history, thoroughly reversing his political erasure. The ruthless campaign to make the world forget the boy king is the exact reason we will always remember him.